gather in.
How you doing? Nice to see you.
Good afternoon. I'm Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, and I'm honored to be here in Buffalo today to announce a set of grants that will save the lives of the brave men and women who work day and night to keep our communities safe. I'm proud to be joined today by your County Executive, Mark Poloncarz, Buffalo Police Commissioner Daniel Durenda, Senator Tim Kennedy, Assemblywoman Crystal Peoples-Stokes, West Seneca Town Supervisor Sheila Megan, as well as Deputy Superintendent Kelly Rizzo of the Niagara Falls Police Department, who has a story that he's going to share with us in a few minutes. We're also joined by representatives from a number of other law enforcement agencies, including the Erie County Sheriff's Office, police departments from Blasdale, Cheektowaga, Evans, Orchard Park, Amherst, Lancaster, Hamburg, Kenmore, and the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority. So I appreciate all my colleagues in government and law enforcement being here today as we announce funding for a tremendously important initiative. Every day in every city and town in the state of New York, law enforcement officers put their lives on the line to protect our communities. Everyone here with me today knows that law enforcement is a dangerous business. These brave men and women confront dangerous, often violent criminals on a daily basis. They do it out of a commitment to duty, and we owe them all a debt of enormous gratitude. But sometimes gratitude is expressed in words but not backed up by actions. We are here today to take actions to show that we do care about our law enforcement community, and we want to make sure that we are doing everything that is within our power to ensure their safety while they are guarding ours. That's why in June, my office announced the inVEST partnership. My office has dedicated $3.5 million in criminal and civil forfeiture funds to reimburse local law enforcement agencies for up to 50% of the cost of new or replacement bulletproof vests. These vests are essential life-saving equipment for our law enforcement officers, and as you will hear later from Deputy Superintendent Rizzo, the Niagara Falls Police Department came close to losing one of their police officers in 2009, and fortunately his life was saved by his bulletproof vest. Deputy Superintendent Rizzo was actually on the call with that officer when it occurred. This story is harrowing, but unfortunately it is not unique. Just last week, a detective with the New York City Police Department was wounded trying to apprehend a suspect. His life was also saved by his bulletproof vest. Law enforcement officers face this kind of danger every day, and you never know when it's coming. It can come when you're just serving a warrant, when you make a traffic stop. You don't know what will turn into a gun battle. We have a duty to ensure that the men and women who go towards danger so that the rest of us can run away from danger have every possible protection we can provide them, and that is the purpose of the inVEST partnership. We opened the grant application process on June 9th, and today we are announcing the first round of funding awards. I am proud to announce that law enforcement agencies in Erie, Niagara, and Orleans counties will be receiving about $180,000 to purchase 438 life-saving bulletproof vests. That includes 160 vests for the Buffalo Police Department, 52 vests for the Erie County Sheriff's Department, 20 vests for the Niagara Falls Police Department, and 37 vests for the Orleans County Sheriff's Office. Statewide, the first round of grants is going to come to about $580,000, and that will support the purchase of almost 1,300 bulletproof vests. I must note that we developed the inVEST program because of a cut to federal funding. Providing bulletproof vests to police officers really should be a no-brainer, but since there are many shootings all over America, I believe that since 1984, 95 officers have been killed by gunfire here in New York State, and no officer should be required to put their life on the line without having a bulletproof vest. So the United States Congress passed a statute, the Bulletproof Vest Grant Act in 1998, and it provided up to 50% matching funds for state and local law enforcement to buy bulletproof vests. In New York State, since that program was created, we received approximately $25 million and purchased 212,000 bulletproof vests. They save lives, as we've discussed and as we've seen, but somehow the political process in Washington is so broken that the money for this life-saving program that really should be a no-brainer was cut. It has fallen victim to the gridlock and dysfunction that affects our nation's capital, and since 2010, New York State has seen federal funding for bulletproof vests fall by 81%. This is disgraceful, it is unacceptable, and it's why we decided to use funds seized from criminals to replace the funds denied by Congress. Today's announcement represents the first round of funding. We are continuing to accept applications, and we expect, based on what we received so far, to provide matching funds for between 6,000 and 10,000 vests. While no vest offers 100% foolproof protection, we know that more than 3,000 law enforcement officers have had their lives saved by ballistic body armor in the last 30 years, and the inVEST partnership is going to help ensure that same protection for the brave men and women who put on a badge and uniform every day to keep our streets safe. And with that, I'd like to introduce your great county executive, Mark Poloncarz.
Thank you. Thank you, General. It is my pleasure to be here on behalf of not only the citizens of Erie County, but as a representative of Erie County, representing not only Erie County's Central Police Services and our Commissioner John Glasscott, who could not be here today, but the Erie County Sheriff's Office, represented by Captain Simon in the corner back there. The 52 vests which will be provided and the assistance for purchasing of those vests will go a long way. Police agencies all across our community often have live shooter exercises, but unfortunately, as we know, they're not always exercises. Sometimes they are real-life situations, as occurred this past year with an active shooter against our own Sheriff's Office this past winter. We need, as a community, to come together to support programs like this, and that's why I commend the Attorney General for his foresight in saying the federal government has dropped the ball, but I am willing to pick up the ball and do what I can to assist local communities so that no police officer should go out there, risk his or her life on the line, and not have the tools at their disposal that they should have. And that's why, on behalf of the people of Erie County, I want to thank you for your commitment of funds through the funds that you take in from criminal activity, and knowing that it's going back into our community to assist individuals, prosecute criminals in the future is something that we can all be proud of. So on behalf of the people of Erie County, I want to thank you, and thank you from the bottom of my heart, because this action, there's a very good chance it will save someone's life in the future. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. And now we're going to hear from Buffalo Police Commissioner Daniel Durenda.
I want to thank the Attorney General for this program and funding this equipment, this vital piece of equipment for our officers. It's a piece of equipment that you pray is never used, but it's a piece of equipment no officer should be without. The funding that we received will provide our officers with approximately 160 new vests, whether they're being replaced because of the expiration date or whether they're for new officers. Again, very valuable piece of equipment. As we see this year nationwide, shootings of police officers are up 40 to 50%. And again, thank God it hasn't hit home, but it could. So I want to thank him for all his efforts. Given today's budgets, we can't afford to do this alone, and it's programs like this that help keep our officers safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And now we're going to hear from Deputy Superintendent Kelly Rizzo of the Niagara Falls Police Department, who has a personal story to share with us.
I'm the Deputy Superintendent of Niagara Falls Police, which means I'm not the superintendent, so the microphone is a little scary to me, so please bear with me. On February 9th of 2009, over 5.5 years ago, I was responding as backup to Officer Walt Nichols and Officer Mike Bird, who were going to a domestic call. As they arrived, Officer Nichols was first on scene, and he began to get out of his vehicle. As soon as he opened his door and turned to get out of the vehicle, he was ambushed from the shadows with a blast from a shotgun. The shotgun tearing into him. Unfortunately, he was also left-handed, so a lot of the rounds went into his left hand and arm, rendering it almost incapacitated, making it very difficult for him to pull his weapon and return fire. I was rounding the corner as this happened. I remember seeing the window of his SUV that he was driving just completely disintegrate, trying to piece together what was actually happening. As I got out of my car and crossed the street to try to find some cover, I noticed that Officer Nichols was backing away from his vehicle, returning fire, trying to find a place of safety. By the time this exchange had ended, 54 rounds were exchanged between the officers on scene and Officer Nichols. Officer Nichols was was wounded, and Officer Mike Bird had also taken some pellets to his face. At that time, Officer Nichols had the majority of the shotgun blast hit him in the torso, and due to his bulletproof vest, it was able to prevent the vast majority of these pellets from entering into his torso. Unfortunately, because there is a gap in the armpit area that just has to be there, he did have two pellets enter into that area and enter his heart, where they remain there today. What makes the story even worse is that Officer Nichols had only been on the street 2.5 hours after returning from a lengthy duty in Iraq. The reason that I'm speaking on his behalf today is because the type of individual that Officer Nichols is, he's back in military service again this month. And that's the type of public servant that was saved by these vests, a very selfless individual. I'm very proud to say that upon his return, he's going to be promoted to the rank of lieutenant, and I can't think of anybody better to lead our men and women at the police department than someone that was able to show such great courage and such strength in his recovery and his commitment to continue moving forward with the police department. This money is going to make me as an administrator feel very good, being able to put my men and women out there with that extra protection to enable them to do their jobs. As we've all seen, violent crime is something that cannot be, laughed at. It is something that's increasingly important for law enforcement agencies to face on a daily basis. And I personally want to thank you, sir, for this wonderful gift to law enforcement and to all the officers' families out there whose loved ones will be protected and safe doing their job due to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It is very important to understand that this cutoff in funding is a national problem. I have been in touch with people in the federal government. I am hopeful that they will see the light and restore this funding. It's not a very expensive program. We know it saves lives, and those of us who work in law enforcement understand the importance of these vests. We give a lot of platitudes to our law enforcement officers. It's time to back it up with money and provide them with the life-saving equipment they need. So thank you very much for being here. Thanks to all of my colleagues. And now we'll take a few questions.
Any questions on the bulletproof vest? Do you have any idea how many bulletproof vests are in use in New York?
Well, we do know, as I mentioned, that the funding from the program, the federal Bulletproof Vest grant program before it got cut, allowed us to buy, I forget what the exact statistic was, but it was something like 212,000 vests. There are, these vests don't last for life. You have to replace them every now and then. If anyone that takes a bullet has to be taken out of commission, and over time you just have to replace them because they lose their, they become less protective over periods of time. Also, police officers, change over the years, and they need to replace vests, and we need to have the money for new officers. So it is tremendously important. And again, our initial round of funding, we think, is going to pay for about 1,300 vests.
Anything else in this topic?
General, on the Orland Commission, I know that you've been restrained in what it is that you've said, but can you do anything to enlighten folks who will be heading to the polls this fall to decide who their next Attorney General is going to be as to what it is your office is currently doing in support of the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney?
No, and I understand the interest. Matters of public corruption are tremendously important. My office has committed more resources than the Office of the Attorney General ever has to these cases. We put regional, in our regional offices, each of them now has a public integrity officer, which never was true before. We've entered into a joint executive order with the controller of the state of New York so that his auditors and our lawyers and investigators are cross-designated and can work more effectively together. We've brought more than 40 cases in our office against public officials and others who are looting public funds. The Office of the Attorney General does not have jurisdiction over violations of the election and campaign finance law. That was yielded by my predecessor, Louis Leftwitz, to the Board of Election a long time ago. My commitment to public integrity is as strong as it can be, and it certainly is as important to me as anything else we do in our office. As you may know, when I was still in the state Senate, I chaired the first committee in modern history to throw out a corrupt senator when we expelled Hiram Montserrat. So this is something I take very seriously. But when there are ongoing investigations, it is inappropriate for a law enforcement officer to comment on them. It can interfere with them and prejudice them, whether these are investigations coming out of referrals from the Moreland Commission or investigations about the Moreland Commission. I'm working with my colleagues in law enforcement, and it would be improper for me to comment beyond that, but I do understand the interest.
Do you take issue with the New York Times articles that identify yourself? Oh, Rich Newberg with Channel 4, CBS, affiliate. Do you take issue with the New York Times articles which criticize the governor for possible interference?
I try not to get involved in back and forth with the New York Times.
How do you react? I mean,
I read them as you read them.
do you place it with any credibility in them at all?
You know, you read the articles, you read the evidence that they presented, and that's all I have to say.
Would your office have any role in following up on any of this, assisting the U.S. Attorney?
As I've stated, we are providing whatever assistance we can to our colleagues in government, federal prosecutors, more than one federal prosecutor, and following up on matters that were both referrals from the Moreland Commission and investigations related to the conduct of the Moreland Commission.
Mike Desmond from WBFO. A, has the Moreland Commission formally been closed down? And B, have you removed the Special Deputy Attorney General designations from the Commission?
Well, I believe the commission has been closed down. I don't even know if I don't even know if the offices are still there. I know they had to retain counsel just to deal with the investigation because there's no one left there. It is not uncommon for the Attorney General's office to designate people, to cross-designate folks who work in the Comptroller's office, for example, or other Moreland commissions. Attorney General Abrams deputized the folks in the Furyk Commission. And when the executive order that frames their duties and their goals, is carried out, they go away. We don't send out letters saying, Comptroller DiNapoli, we're now withdrawing our designation of this person. Once the project is over, the project is over.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.